Hi everyone, it is time for our next major paper, the genre analysis. This is kind of what we've been building up to all along. A lot of your assignments last week were just kind of precursors to this. I don't want you to stress over it. I'm going to be giving you a lot of time to work on this. But let's go over the prompt. I'll try to be as quick as I possibly can because I know your time is valuable. But your genre analysis. So last week I asked you to think about something that you're passionate about. So this can be a political issue, a school issue, new schedules. The school where I do dual enrollment, where I also or that I teach dual enrollment face to face, they've recently changed to a 4x4 block scheduling, and there's some very passionate responses to that one. It can be a social issue, really anything. So what I want you to do is find a genre about this issue. It can be a political speech, a social media post, a billboard, commercial, news article, whatever you want to respond to. So it's in three parts. So in part one, you will identify and analyze the genre rhetorically. So, who is the audience for this particular genre? What was their exigence, motivation for creating this genre? What constraints might this genre have? Does it have time constraints? If it's a commercial, then there will be time constraints. If it's a tweet, then there's a character constraint. Depending on where it's published, there might be language constraints because you can't use certain types of language in certain situations. Is it credible? Does it have that ethos? Is the person who's creating it someone that you can trust? Why or why not? You're going to have to defend that. Is it logically organized? Can you follow it easily? That's the logos. And did it elicit an emotional response, which is your pathos? So part two, I want you to kind of go into why you agree with them or not. So you can disagree with the person as well, but I want some details as to why or why not you agree with what they are presenting. And in part three, what would be the best way for you to respond and why? So I want you to also create this response. So if it's like a social media post, if it's a text or whatever it is, we're going to get into some examples of that in just a second. And I want you to defend it rhetorically. So what I did is I created a concise example for you. So, and this is a thing that you can follow. Now, most of the papers that we've had in this class so far, I've given you a lot of freedom in how you structure it and how you construct it. This particular one, I do want some very specific things. So it's a little bit there, you do have that constraint put on you. I do want to make sure that you are hitting all of these different things so I can make sure that you know how to analyze something rhetorically. And this is the reason why we do this. So in 1020, because we're segueing you just a little bit into the getting into that research writing mindset, when you are looking for sources, especially for research papers, or even if it's just an opinion paper or an analytical paper or whatever it is you're looking for, you need to make sure that you can defend that source rhetorically. Is it credible? Why is it credible? You need to be able to answer these questions so that way your own papers will have that credibility, that ethos, because you're students, and when you're a student, unless you are an expert in something, you are going to be bringing in outside experts to defend your points and what you're trying to say. And so just being aware of rhetoric and how it is used and how it can be used to deceive and persuade is extremely important. And so that's why we do this assignment. I like to tell you the why. So here is a condensed example. Oops, sorry, I had a typo here. Let me fix that. Okay, having a brother. So anyway, so it's a very condensed example. I would like for you to give me just a little bit more than this, but I just kind of pared it down a little bit so that way you can kind of see what I'm looking for. So, having a brother on the autism spectrum, I am very passionate about making sure that people have correct information about this disorder. Recently, I came across this tweet on Twitter, now known as X. I don't know if they're still known as tweets or not. I would love it if someone could answer that for me. Hold on one second. My 2-year-old needs some attention. I'll be right back. Sorry guys, real life, I had to pause the recording because my 2-year-old needed something. So in this, I have an introduction, why I kind of picked this topic. And so in your introduction, I would like to give me just a little bit of background information. Like, as I said, autism is something that is extremely important to me. And so that's why I kind of picked this topic. So, came across this tweet and then I included the tweet. So if you were including something that would be easy to put in your paper, I would like for you to do that, like a screenshot of a tweet or a social media post or whatever. If you were doing an article or a video, post the link in your paper so that way whoever is reading it can go and find exactly what you're talking about. So one, that way I can evaluate it as well to see, okay, this is what they're saying, and this is, they're trying to defend this on Ethos Pathos Logos. Did you do it correctly? So whatever it is that you are arguing with or for or against, make sure that you are including that within your paper. So a tweet's easy because you can screenshot it and put it in, and that's exactly what was done here. So I would, but as I said, if this was a full-blown article, I would include a link to the article right there. So that way it will be easy to see. So then I defend it rhetorically. It was written for a general audience, but specifically geared towards those who probably believe that vaccines cause autism. The creator of Vaccine Truth obviously wants to convince as many people as possible that vaccines do cause children to develop autism and they should be avoided at all costs. They are constrained by the character limitations of a tweet as well as community guidelines. And you can go into more depth there if you wish to, but I just wanted, just as a brief example of kind of what I'm looking for. That's what it is. The creator is not very credible. I could not find any information about who the person behind it is, so it is doubtful that it is a doctor or an expert in the field. So that's what I did. I went back to the Vaccine Truths and I checked out their profile. I tried to find if there was an actual person behind it. Could not find anything about who actually created this. And so that damages their ethos. It's like, well, who are you to say that? If you were like a top doctor in child development, then yeah, I might believe you more readily. But since you've also offered no links to any type of information that shows me who you are, basically. So just go into depth as to why or why not this person is credible. It is easy to read, which is the logos. Notice I didn't necessarily say it has ethos because, or it has logos because. You don't have to necessarily use that terminology, just as long as I can tell that you're understanding these concepts. That's what I'm going to be looking for. It's easy to read, but it provides no links to prove that what they are saying is true. In fact, it's quite easy to go on any academic database and disprove what they tweeted about. Also, the word serious really isn't the correct word to use to help present a logical argument. It would have been better to say prestigious, vetted, or peer-reviewed, but they purposely did not use that type of language, which indicates it might not be true. Vaccines are a hot topic, so just mentioning them would make any audience have an emotional response. I mean, especially after those COVID vaccines, there was a huge controversy about them. So there is a lot of really, really strong feelings about vaccines. So anyway, but all in all, it isn't a very effective tweet, and it doesn't prove anything. They did not offer any proof. They just said, well, my thing's being some serious academic journals. Well, which academic journal? I mean, they had enough characters to say which one. They had enough characters to potentially provide a link, but they did not do that. So then you kind of go into the response. I do not agree with the content of this message. As mentioned before, it is all too easy to disprove with any search on any academic database or the National Institute of Health's webpage. Upon doing some research, I discovered that there was a doctor named Andrew Wakefield who published a study that was later proven to be highly flawed, claiming that vaccines cause autism. In fact, there are hundreds of published works that prove that there are no connection between vaccines and autism, such as a study that was published on the National Library of Medicine's website titled "Vaccines Are Not Associated with Autism: An Evidence-Based Meta-Analysis of Case Cohort Control and Cohort Studies." It can be found here. Now, I'm not asking again, we're getting into baby research here with this just a little bit. So whether you agree or disagree, you need to prove it. You need to prove why you should agree with the genre or why you shouldn't agree with it. So what I did is I found an actual case study with the link that I included in the article, and I'm not asking for correct citations yet. That is more of a thing that we get into in English 1020 for our writing classes. So for here, if you just want to include a link saying, look, here is the proof that this is true or not true, you can just include a hyperlink, and that is perfectly fine. The consensus is generally supported by most in the medical community. Over the years, I have, and this is part 3, how would you respond to it? Over the years, I found that replying directly to a person making a post like this is not very effective. My purpose would be to try to and convince them that my opinion is correct, but there are certain groups of people that cannot be reasoned with, and any response would probably result in a tweet war. And that is true. Sometimes the best response is no response, and that's okay. Yeah, so the best response I can make would be to create my own tweet posted to my personal page that has a link to a peer-reviewed research article that shows that vaccines do not cause autism. It could look something like this. There's so much misinformation about vaccines and autism. Check out this vetted source. So that would be my response. My response would not be to reply to that person directly, because sometimes people, there's a saying that says those convinced against their will are of the same opinion still. And I think that that's exactly what would happen. So sometimes the best answer is just to let it go and maybe promote your own thoughts on your own social media platform. If it's an article, if you're doing an article about a very hot topic, sometimes you might reach out to the author. I mean, sometimes they'll respond to you. I mean, it's really interesting what people will or will not do. But as I said, it's also very valid that the best response might be no response. So my hope is that having a logical source that has credibility due to it being peer-reviewed and trying to stay neutral and not provoke the people who think differently, and those with open minds might be willing to entertain the idea that I could be right. Sorry, little 2-year-old voices right now. My husband's actually at a trunk or treat with my older ones that they are handing out candy, not trick-or-treating. So yeah, I've got that 2-year-old with me. So for this particular project, there's no word count, but I will be looking for your ability to analyze a genre effectively, defend your opinion, and come up with a logical response. So it's okay if your paper looks like this. And if you notice, sometimes students are like, well, the transitions just seem so awkward. That's really normal in an analysis paper where you're asked to define very specific criteria for the paper. And so I promise you it's okay if it doesn't seem like it kind of flows well. As long as you're hitting those requirements that I have asked for in this prompt, you're going to be perfectly fine. And so I have the rubric right here that you can kind of look over on your own time. This is posted in D2L. I will post it both in the announcements for this week and in the prompt section in the content section. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Again, I am always very willing to help you, especially I know that this assignment is a little bit more of a bear. It involves a lot more thinking, a lot more in-depth knowledge, tapping into that knowledge base that you have. So if you need help, if you need me to do a Zoom with you, a Zoom call, a FaceTime, whatever you need, just let me know and I'll be more than happy to help you. And I also asked for just a little grace. I'm a little bit behind on grading. This past week wound up being much busier with some extra things that I was not planning on. So I am working on getting all of your interview projects graded and everything else. And so hopefully in the next few days, I should have everything updated as far as your grades go. So I appreciate your patience. And again, sorry, it was the last week of band season and we had a lot going on that interfered with my work time, so to say. And so again, I deeply apologize, but I will be getting things graded soon. I actually did see Wilson Central perform at Contest of Champions on Saturday, and y'all did a fantastic job. And if you're in the band, you should be very, very proud of yourself. But I hope y'all have a great week. And if you need anything, please let me know.